Back everyone to the LPL Grand Final as we are about to start game number 5 between EDG and LGD. My name is Julian Pastry Time Card. Joining with me for the final time this evening is Christopher Papa Smithy Smith. And what a more fitting way to end such an epic grand final than with one last game.
296 games of the LPL culminate in just one for all the marbles to represent China at the mid-season invitational to take this sick cup that you can see on your screen. There's so many little storylines, players like PYL who've slaved away since 2011 dreaming of a game like this to decide whether they can actually make it through the mid-season invitation to get his first major success as we go over the last game. And who else but GodV to give the MVP?
That Orianna might have slipped up once here in the final, but what a last game there to push them to a game 5. And LGD, these wins over EDG look so clean. That's the biggest thing to me. When EDG win, it's through like the veteran experience of Clear Love and some sick clutch ultis with Koro. I mean, when they work together as one, when they're on the same page and everything works wonderfully, they look almost unstoppable. But LGD have been picking them apart piece by piece throughout the entire series. And if they have them downloaded for this last game, EDG don't stand a chance.
In general, EDG was so strategically outplayed that game that it never got to the point where a Clear Love ultimate could start really resoundingly changing this game. GodV was always protected well on his Orianna. The tanks played their roles. The lane swaps in particular, setting Urgot up to just forcing him to mid, never getting actually to take the 2v2 that he always wants to look into. We mentioned the fact that Def likes to avoid that 2v2 matchup at the start, but eventually you get to rotate, start to freeze minion waves in. Because that minion wave in bottom was pushed when he rotated down, he needed his jungler to come and try and bounce those minions off the turret and move them towards his turret, because Sivir just froze for the rest of the laning phase, forced Urgot to go mid, and that strategic advantage, that anti-AD carry, basically traded farm with an Orianna. And you saw pretty clearly who came out the better of that trade.
I mean, that's just one of Imp's best strengths, and as a team, LGD, they're so good in a lane swap situation. Imp's great in a 1v1 or 1v0. TBQ's much better when he just gets to graze a bit and farm up the jungle like an old school Clear Love here. They're just so good at doing these lane swaps. PYL's a great roamer as well. I want to see EDG maybe pick standard lanes because that's something that they haven't really gotten in this series. And I'm going to ask you, have you ever seen EDG get this outplayed? Because we talk about strategical outplay. EDG were usually the team doing that to everyone else.
It's a two-factor thing. I've never seen EDG get this strategically outplayed, but I've never seen LGD play this soundly. This has been kind of the story of their playoff run. It's just how much they've leveled up compared to their last half of the season. If you remember, at the start of the season, Imp, we were thinking, was probably the best performing AD carry. PYO was unchained, running around the map, getting wards, playing like he has been in this series in their wins. They just fell away for the great majority of what is a grueling, long season. You know, towards the end of the season, the incentives for showing your best hand aren't really there once you've guaranteed yourself a place in the finals. And the finals LGD compared to what, 8-9 weeks of LGD play, it's just night and day.
It is. I mean, we've already talked about it. They've had a dream playoff run running 6-0 until they ran straight first into EDG. 7-0. And then the wheels fell off a little bit, and it all comes down to a 5th game. EDG trying to keep the title in their club for what would be a 13th major win, I believe, for EDG as an esports organization in China. And LGD only got 3 big titles, but I'd love to make a 4th.
Just selfishly, players like PYR, as we mentioned, finally getting that big success. Imp, actually, I made a mistake and misspoke. Pawn, of course, only joined the Samsung White organization after their big OGN triumph against CJ Blaze many moons ago. So Imp is the only person who can actually look to claim the triple crown of OGN Championship, LPL Championship, and the World's Championship. Pawn never managed to pick up that LCK, or at that time OGN win, despite being on such a dominant team like 2014 Samsung White. GodV, the flair player, the confidence player, the king of the playoffs, you have to say, after so many carry performances. I mean, when you look at GodV and Pawn, you look at probably the 2 strongest flair players in the league. And what I mean by that is probably typified by how they play against Dade, another one of the Samsung members. GodV famously earlier this season beating Dade Zed and then blind picking Zed and beating him on Dade's given counter pick, just laughing and emoting after every kill. And Pawn himself against his old maestro, the person who he inherited the jacket from, doing the same sort of happiness. Both of them really happy with their wins against emotional players like Dade. Both of them are going to be emotional coming into Game 5. And I'm super excited to see what's the first pick and just in general the texture of this draft. Because another no wave clear comp from EDG. I think they're going to lose.
I think so too, and all comes down to this. The jacket buff might be finally wearing off for Pawn. It's been pretty big throughout the season, but the bans are almost done. EDG on the blue side for our last game. LGD will take the red. Orianna, Cassidy, and Kalista all banned by EDG as LeBlanc and Nar and Annie got the bans in there for LGD. So they've played 4 games already. Tons of champions now being banned out as targeted bans fly out left, right, and center. And Korra's having fun now, flashing Riven and Bard. But I can tell you right now, they snap off the Hecarim.
And Sejuani accepted. This is pretty much a wash in terms of the most important picks this series. The likes of Orianna, Cassidy, and Nar have shaped the previous games. Annie herself as well. The Hecarim as the first pick makes a lot of sense. Korra's looked really good on this champion, but it leaves over the Nunu as the strongest control jungler. And will they just try and snap away the Jinx to get that Nunu Jinx combo that EDG themselves have used to so much success?
Acorn, I have good advice for you. Take the Jinx away from Deft. He's still undefeated on it. Hasn't seen a single play with the champion in the entire series. And TBQ, he's back on the Nunu. That almost semi-blocks a Sejuani pick. And smartly, LGD take the Jinx as well.
And is it back to Corki time? With all the marbles available, does Deft go for his most played AD carry Corki? That's how he dealt with Pawn. They dealt with Jinx in the previous series. They're already flashing the Janna here just because they don't want to allow full disengage comp to go over to LGD. What is the next pick going to be? They've already committed to a top laner. Now they really need to start rolling with their other picks here, EDG.
Look, especially with Nar banned away, Korra will eventually deal with this Jinx. It's just a matter of getting him to that spot in a good amount of time. The other thing Jinx does for you is give you fast push options. So I like this. Be more aggressive from EDG as they take away Thresh and Rek'Sai.
Rek'Sai was the champion Clearlove moved towards in Game 5 against WE. It's another Game 5, another Rek'Sai game. He's shown excellent presence in this champion, but suddenly the disengage starts to pile on. Honestly, this comp didn't work so well for EDG. In Game 1, of course, they ran a very similar comp with a disengaged comp based around Kog'Maw. The Jinx gives it something different, of course, can go offensive if they pick up that first kill. But this is a lot of peeling for Imp on this LGD first 4 picks.
And I like the Akon defaulting to Maokai. Makes sense. It's probably the best top laner left in the pool. And it's not a great matchup against Hecarim, but you'll take it. And in general, if you're lane swapping, it's a great champion to give Akon in that situation. Janna is the takeaway from LGD. I like that pickup as well. But we already know that EDG have to mix something up here. They're going to blind pick a mid laner here. So PYL will get his pick for Godby, their mid laner. That's the Sivir taken by EDG. And do they go all in on the mid game with the Twisted Fate? And they do!
They blind pick Twisted Fate Game 5. This is some confidence play coming through from Pawn. With the Ghost Flash Summoners, you have to think he was heavily considering it. You've got the choice of counterpick to assassin player like Godby. Will he go standard, actually, and go for just a normal assassin? Will he go for the likes of Syndra that he loves to play? There's so many different champions that work in this situation. Wave clear and assassination onto Twisted Fate is what LGD need with this last pick.
Ahri they could pick. Diana if he wants to go back to it. Thankfully, LeBlanc's been banned by EDG. Pawn hasn't got a look at that champion all series long. They do lock in Lissandra. It's a good control mage to try and deal with the Twisted Fate. But Imp, you better get world champion on this last game here because your job is to hard carry this game.
Yeah, it's a bit of burst from the mid lane. Good wave clear, but all in on damage on Imp. The world champion, the potential triple crown winner. It's all on him in Game 5.
Yeah, and that's what they're looking at. A ticket to MSI and a one shiny trophy there as it's come down to Game 5, which, honestly, in the LPL final, we've already played almost 300 games. What's one more?
What's one more? Well, this is the one more. This is the game. And Lissandra, that's the big answering pick coming through. And last second changes to Cleanse Summoner spell. So suddenly, the kill pressure's that much lower onto Twisted Fate. Giving Twisted Fate any semblance of hope to roam is going to be a big problem for LGD because there's mid-game power across the board for EDG.
Yeah, it's Hecarim Maokai on the top side. Rek'Sai versus Nunu with Clearlove. Going to go back to his old aggressive ways that we've seen earlier in the season. Pawn with the blind pick TF into the Lissandra. And Pawn, he doesn't want to kill his mid laner, but he wants to kill Imp especially. Is Deft back on the Sivir versus the Jinx.
I mean, the big thing for LGD is that if you look at these individual laning matchups, they actually all swing in the early game towards LGD. Maokai has a much more regular laning phase against Hecarim. Lissandra's going to have the laning phase advantage against Twisted Fate. And Jinx has always been a positive laning matchup against Janna. They've picked 12, but it's only a Nunu to impact the lanes. So can EDG get the lane swap they need? Because that could be the crucial factor for this game.
We'll have to find out. It all comes down to this. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our final game of the LPL Spring Grand Final. Dominating domestic champions EDG find their backs against the wall versus an upstart LGD who looks so hungry for a first big LPL title.
And EDG, they have the experience advantage in situations like this. They've already played 5 games on this stage earlier in the final series, being taken to the 5th game against an upstart World Elite lineup. Now LGD, with some members who've never been to such heady positions as the 5th game in LPL final. EDG already have a big coffers of success despite only being a year-old organization. They desperately want the lane swap this game. They're happy to isolate the mid lane matchup when Govy doesn't even have Ignite for kill pressure. Govy without kill pressure, that's already a crazy thing given his penchant for Ignite and never picking up Merc Treads himself. And you just want to get that Hecarim away from the laning matchup and use the Smite for what will be impressively fast jungle clear between Rek'Sai and Hecarim.
I mean, it's almost been a tussle between who needs or wants the lane swap more. It benefits LGD strategically so much, but EDG, especially in this situation, kind of find themselves where they need to lane swap and get the Hecarim away from the Maokai.
Given that all of LGD's strategies seem to depend on a lane swap, whether that's TBQ's strength as a jungler, their confidence in putting Godby in 1v1 lane matchups on basically any champions and trusting his mechanics in general. And of course, Imp's amazing ability to just freeze minion waves, just has a better ability at doing that than any other AD carry, even though it's a now standard thing in the meta. LGD basically seem to play their game plan around the lane swap, much like Samsung Blue did once upon a time. And they get the one they want, but in this particular game, I feel like EDG get the lane swap they need.
Yeah, Hecarim going to take away. That's a good way to put it, as Pawn will join for his final mid lane matchup here against Godby. And both these mid lane players been exceptional. Godby especially has come up during playoffs. He's called in the playoff king. I think I agree with you as far as that title goes. And it's funny that you mentioned that both these players like to pick on Dade, because Godby, he's gone full Dade this playoff.
Absolutely. Blind picking Twisted Fate has definitely gone good or bad depending on what team you are. LGD Gaming, we saw Hetong loving to blind pick this game. In general, wasn't punished for it. Then we saw Cool try and do it for OMG and get horribly punished. The first Destiny leading to first blood against him and losing his turret. The ultimate big issue for Twisted Fate. Speaking of Twisted Fate.
Yeah, dive coming in. Acorn's here as well. Pawn's going to get ganked. Nothing he can do. The teleport's down. No, he's not alive for long enough. Koro's trying to help him, but they can't join in. Even PYL's piled on.
And that is some crazy aggression. I thought the cleanse meant no visits to the mid lane, but with Twisted Advance for the guaranteed lockdown, they go for the sheer turret dive. Koro teleports in at half health. They couldn't turn onto him, but first blood already, and both escape summoners used by Pawn.
And we saw it in an earlier game in the series. LGD reading EDG's roam to give Pawn an advantage in a disadvantageous matchup, and that going wrong with them counter-ganking. This time, they just nip it right in the bud. They're going to gank him before anyone else expects.
It's just not something I would have expected. And as you mentioned, it's one of those situations where they have Maokai and Nunu. Remember, Maokai can drop turret aggro with the Twisted Advance, so it can take that first turret hit, drop the aggro. Already, Nunu is super tanking and just consume I believe it's a Krug and get the extra 10% maximum health. They're jungling on the top side. There was never going to be any defensive wards. And TF, even though he's prone to be turret dive, we're talking about a 2-minute turret dive. That's never something you account for. But that's really heads-up play in a grand final.
It is. LGD now 500, 600 gold ahead, in fact, in their mid lane matchup. Godby goes back, gets double Dorrance now as Pawn can only equalize his one. And the nice thing, they get 3 summoners out of the deal as well with a teleport and both of Pawn's summoners down as well.
I mean, Ghost Flash being down, doesn't matter that Godby has cleanse. There's significant kill pressure, even with a Nunu. Twisted Fate's very good at pushing in these lanes, not as good at last hitting under turret, but that's the only option he'll have without any summoners whatsoever.
You can see Def doing fine in the bottom side as well, but does not benefit nearly as much as the Jinx, you have to say, who does want to navigate away from a lot of her early matchups. To be fair, Deft is dodging the Jinx matchup as Sivir, so that's nice as well, but it's Koro for me. He needs to get going on this Hecarim, and he's doing great right now. 9 CS to 3 with the Smite is a good early lead, but if Pawn keeps getting picked on, it might not matter how big the horse is.
Clearlove finds a couple of members in the jungle. You see Pawn rotating. We're seeing more battling.
Yeah, they are going to go in, but no, Ghost is going to go through. Lissandra's going to rejoin in. Pawn going to get himself headed up as TBQ taking too much damage, but does survive as Def rotates in. Koro's here as well. TBQ finally dies to Mako, but that might just be it as the Boomerang Blade comes in onto PYL. Acorn, the next target, will knock them back with the Arcane Smash, and it's a 1-for-1 trade, it looks like.
It's just 1-for-1, and remember, EDG committed all 5 members compared to Jinx, still staying up the top lane. The freeze continues in this this situation. So strategic advantage, while slim, lies with LGD.
I mean, Koro at this point is just a glorified jungler at this stage. Actually has slightly more CS than Clearlove, so it's okay. He's going to take camps anyway, but that does split gold away from your Rek'Sai, and EDG just get a Trey kill. Nothing else they can claim.
It's worth noting that the Clearlove that we saw on Rek'Sai in the previous Game 5 was well ahead. Snowboard got a very early Cinderhawk into Giant Spell and was just aggressively forcing skirmishes with his face. He was just getting in there, taking damage, and allowed rotations to come through to pick up kills. Basically sacrificing his own jungle CS to allow Hecarim to be competitive. It's going to be a very different type of Rek'Sai this game.
I mean, I think Pawn's getting redived again, but he's already screwed. Lissandra is almost level 6 in this matchup as well, and you can tell Pawn, they know what's going on. He's got his Ghost, but no Flash, and a teleport's coming in for Akon. This is going to hurt for Pawn. He gets the gold cut in, but Akon's already here. The redive coming through. Godfrey doesn't even need level 6, and Pawn, he'll die again under his turret.
There's multiple ways to get punished as Twisted Fate in a laning situation. Blind picked it. Didn't expect the creative adaptations, but it seems like LGD have comped around and practice for a Twisted Fate comp, and boy, are they executing it well.
Mako coming in, that's a mistake from Mako, gets knocked back and knocked up, tanks the turret too often, and that kill goes to Koro.
Yeah, crucially, it goes to Koro of all people. Has been so well held by Imp. Suddenly 13 CS up and a kill up on his lane opponent. This pony's getting going.
LGD pinging on the Dragon. I think they know EDG want to try and take it away. TBQ is in the area. Deft is pressuring the bottom side turret, though, and EDG, they're on top of the Dragon. They might even get a turret from Deft.
They've got 2 smites available at this point, so safe to secure the Dragon. For everything they're using against Pawn, they're getting punished in other ways, so at least EDG aren't falling behind in a drastic manner. But in terms of lane presence, 0, 3, and 1, just a Doran's Ring and level 4. How can Pawn even enter lane against Godfrey?
I mean, he's down CS as well. Godfrey's double him on that metric as well. He's entering lane. I agree with you. I don't know quite how he can do it, but he needs level 6. He's useless, to be honest, without it. But level 6 now up for Lissandra and Pawn. You know, you can tell by how far he's playing back, despite his summoners. He just doesn't want to get killed again, but that's with PYL there. Probably what's going to happen again.
He was pinging defensively around that cove. He doesn't have vision. There needs Rek'Sai to put a vision around both coves just to see whether Lissandra's going to go for that aggressive glacial path into kill pressure. I mean, level 5 Twisted Fate with just a Doran's Ring is free food for Godfrey.
I mean, we talk about the first Destiny as well being an important thing for Twisted Fates. Pawn better have the sickest Destiny of his career at this stage, because he needs to get someone else going. He can't stay in this lane.
The only way he can have a relevant Destiny is for someone in the lanes to be really powerful. And Merc treads the snowball purchase from Koro. Not going to really help in terms of combat stats. Maybe ganking for Deft with his BF sword. But against John are going to be difficult. Now it's super risky, because if you do commit to that Destiny and mess it up, your lane's effectively over.
I mean, it's kind of already over at this stage. I think he has to make the desperation play. We've seen EDG again trade well around their Twisted Fate. Maybe they trust Pawn enough to catch himself back up. He does like to put himself in precarious situations. Blue buff now with the level 6. It might be now or never for Pawn.
Look, he's definitely going to be a non-factor, at least in the early game, unless he gets, as you mentioned, the big snowball ultimate coming through. I don't feel like the lanes are really in a position. You're not really going to use it onto Akon, who's just too damn tanky on this Maokai, and it's going to be positioning defensively. It's only bottom lane, but I think in general, Deft is going to be better served just pushing in these minion waves and backing away, because Jinx already has a natural laning matchup against Sivir. You might think, okay, why did they opt away from the 2v2 given that Jinx has a very good laning matchup against Sivir? Most of the laning phases at the early levels can be burst traded with the likes of the Ricochet and the Boomerang Blade, but with BF swords, the burst trades will always register for Jinx.
Lissandra coming through as well. Does clear out the pink ward while Godvia's red buff successfully goes over to Clearlove Pawn. As a result, we'll get a bit more breathing room here in the lane. He's got cooldown boots plus the double Dorans and a flask, so very defensive but relatively safe. Clearlove going to look in, tries to take away the Scuttle Crab, but uses his ultimate and doesn't get it.
And look, even though Pawn has had a little bit of pressure relief from him, it's even Clearlove that's taking pressure. Look at the pink wards and aggressive red wards that are opened up by the fact that Pawn, even with the Destiny, we always talk about, okay, he's got Destiny, he can react to anything first. He's going to react to things and just die because he doesn't have the items to necessarily look for any of these skirmishes.
I mean, EDG, we've seen them slow play or even lose some early games and come back through the mid game. That seems to be how they like to do business here. So I guess no aggressive Destiny from Pawn. It does make sense. It's a slightly more controlled play, but EDG already starting the game on the back foot here with another, I'm going to say bad, but just slightly off mid lane pick from Pawn. He almost counterpicked himself in the last game and opened himself up to getting counterpicked in this one.
He's not a true control mage player. He's had that in the past in his repertoire, but this whole season has been on those offensive champions. There's the Destiny, though.
Going into the top side. Koro's moving in as well. Aiko will get stunned up. Koro needs to use the ulti. Does get in there. Do they have enough damage as Pawn lining up another card? Does come in, insta gold card, and Koro gets another kill.
But there's so many members coming top, and I don't even know if a turret will dissuade them.
Well, it's going to give Def the trade here as well, but Pawn low. Godby diving in. Good flash of the cleanse comes out as well, but Koro, he's got nowhere left to go. Will die here as PYL picks him up. Who's going to get the kill? That's the important question. Lives for a little while longer, but does finally fall to Godby. What the? Why are you living? There we go.
But realistically, it should have been so much more. Should have been a double kill, but that was a sick play coming out from Pawn to get away from that fight. In the meantime, Def pushes the bottom lane turret. Jinx is trying to get pressure into mid, but actually TF should get there soon.
Mako in trouble. May get dived here. TBQ going to fancy his way in. Just shields himself with the lantern as Imp is ripping through the turret right now. Pawn going to come in, clear it out with a red card if he has it. No, wanted to stun Imp but couldn't find it. EDG are playing this game at a pretty fast pace, and LGD, credit to them, they're keeping up.
But look at the gold now. It's all even. What more could you ask for 11 minutes into your final game of the season? But it's all even. Pawn obviously well behind in terms of lane presence compared to Godby, but he's doing his best to navigate. It's 900, 800 gold, which at 11 minutes is pretty significant, but it was already a poor laning matchup, and the fact that he was able to make something happen on the map at all, 0, 3, and 1 down, is already credit to Pawn.
I think it's the second dragon that will tell us a lot as well. EDG have gotten the first dragon only twice, I believe, in the series, once in this game and one in the last. Have not been as on top of snowballing objectives like they have in the regular season. So if they can get a snowball lead finally onto LGD, they can start playing from ahead again with this mid-game comp.
Interesting that the Hecarim doesn't have any of his major items that you definitely give the advantage to Maokai with just the Catalyst over just Mercury Treads and some of the eventual Cinderhulk coming through from Hecarim. His backing now has a bit of gold spin, but only 270, so definitely no home guard boots or any big team fight changing abilities coming through with this next dragon fight.
I mean, Deft has to make it big here with his pickaxe and BF sword. If they can delay Imp's back as well, that might help them out. Again, they've got good pressure over. Imp's got 1,600 gold to spend as well. For EDG, lining up the dragon in 30 seconds long. They're looking for a pick.
Yeah, they're looking for a pick as much as possible. Good. Jinx is perhaps going to have to back off. It's another situation where Dragon's spawning and the purchases haven't come through from Jinx. He pings in the area just if he backs himself, just to pick up a bit more regen. We're waiting to see if Koro can delay this long enough to pick up, for example, his Cinderhulk, which would actually be a pretty big jump in power for Koro in the top lane for the Hecarim, but at present point, doesn't look like it.
And Imp looks like he'll make it back in time as well. Dragon up in 5 seconds. TBQ going to take away his Grump as well, prepping for the dragon fight that might be coming. EDG, though, instantly on top of the objective this time, and I think Koro doing the smart thing, just trying to deny Acorn's teleport rather than join himself.
Now, he knows that there's an eventual, probably home guard coming in after he picks up a couple of waves. If we look for flank wars, they're not super deep for EDG, but plentiful. There's no teleport.
Yeah, he's going straight in. Acorn wants in right now. Does join into the fight. The Dragon's back, and LGD might just power for it.
EDG have given up the Dragon, but they're looking to get 2 turrets from it. Pings onto the top turret coming through from Koro. Def's going to get some free time with mid. But I don't know if they have enough damage to take it down just yet.
Dragon goes there over to LGD. Mid turret not taken out, though, as Godby's there for the wave clear. Pawn back to the bottom side, trying to get some farm. Might fancy a 1v1, but probably can't do it up against Imp, who's quite strong at this stage of the game. Koro actually putting into that's who they want. They're going to go in onto Imp. There's PYL joined in as well. The Destiny use just for a bit of vision. PYL interrupting as much as he can, and TBQ's come down as well. PYL gets stunned, but Imp is running down onto Pawn, and he's caught completely out of position, and that's a double kill for Jinx.
The double kill just makes things worse, and in mid, they're losing another trade.
Mako snared up. That's a kill for Acorn, and EDG, everything's going wrong.
They're getting caught in 2 areas. Clearlove finally shows up to the fight.
Going in again onto Acorn, but it's 2v2. Def, does he have enough damage? He does. Finally gets the trade onto Acorn. Godby going to get flash on borrowed. Still going in onto the Lysandra, and Rek'Sai gets a double.
But the objectives work really well for LGD, taking that bottom lane turret. Even though he doesn't have Infinity Edge or boots, Jinx doesn't care. They have the first outer turret to equalize what's coming up, and they're going to contest this red.
You can see another 1,000, 1,500 gold lead up for LGD. Def desperately trying to push here, but he just doesn't have that much, and the rest of LGD EDG, they're coming to gank him.
Yeah, they're coming to gank him, and he doesn't even have the ultimate to get away. He has flash and heal.
TBQ in here, good spell shield. Clearlove's in as well. Imp gonna get snared up. That's a big deal as Clearlove gets his 3rd kill. Death still alive, uses the heal at just the last second. Korra gonna chase in. Mako needs to find a hook, gets the stun. There's the Umbara coming through. Hook landing as well. Boomerang Blade comes in. And EDG, how are they doing this?
Mako is so clutch on Thresh. There's a reason that World Elite were banning both Thresh and Annie. Give him a playmaking champion. And this rookie in his 5th game in the LPL final is playing out of his mind on Thresh.
And he needs to. Everyone on both teams need to at this stage of the game. It is do or die. If you're a clutch player, you better put your hand up right now. And Pawn, he might be behind, but he's still fighting, and so are the rest of EDG.
It was Pawn's heroic performance in Game 5 against World Elite that was one of the main drivers for EDG even being in this position. But this time around, he needs his team to step up. And so far, the likes of Clearlove and Mako have really stepped up in the early game.
And Korra's getting tankier as well. The Cinderhawk's done to pairing with that skirmisher save. And we've talked about Hecarim being a big threat. He can dismantle a lot of what is honestly a mostly single threat comp from LGD, and Akon even getting aggressed on can't do anything in the matchup really.
I mean, unfortunately, Maokai, while much more flexible, while an excellent jungle follow after, as we saw with the very early turret dive on the Twisted Fate, he doesn't even have a Righteous Glory to show for 16 minutes of play. Akon has consistently been in this situation where he's had the minimum of resources and been asked to make the most of it. But there's a minimum of resources, and there's no one-item spike at 16 minutes.
No, and it's Hecarim that if he gets comfortably to his big items is going to cause trouble for LGD at about the 25-minute mark, and already he could be a problem as Koro, you know, he's playing out of his mind to try and win another final, and Clearlove's here again. Ulti they used by Koro onto Akon. Clearlove with the knocker, but TBQ's coming in, but here comes Pawn into the top side of the map. No, he's too far away. Just wants some vision, does teleport in, but he can't make it in time.
They've committed all 5 members to
Deft, what? Going so deep in onto Akon. Gets the solo kill by flashing on top of his head.
I mean, his aggressive flashes on any champion has been crazy this year. They're going to get the top, but they're going to swap it for the mid turret. And there's aggressive pings from LGD to keep pushing.
And do not race it, Jinx, when the LPL final is on the line. Imp, so good in base race situations, and Deft, he's staying as well because he knows he can't stop it. The tier 2 falls, but they might equalize. 3 for 2 right now. EDG gonna try and make it 3 for 3.
Still too healthy. It's over half health. They do have the Dark Passage to get away. Multiple members rotating. EDG need to make evacuation moves right now.
Deft with a good... Lantern actually gets him out to safety. Credit to Mako for being in the right position. Deft will escape. Clearlove will as well. We can all breathe a sigh of relief for a little while longer. But LGD now up in turrets and Dragon. The action's not stopping. It's back in a minute 55.
EDG have managed to find 106 CS onto Pawn despite him being a complete non-factor in any sort of laning matchup, to the point where they were sending him bottom in a 1v1 versus Jinx, which obviously he had to respect to the point where he couldn't hit the minion wave, only really CSing with max range wildcards. They gave the blue buff over to Sivir because there was no way that Twisted Fate was relevant in this mid lane in the mid game. So they're just trying to play around the fact that Twisted Fate has got that global, he's got the CC, but he's just a CC bot at this point.
I mean, Pawn's doing what he can with the resources he has, and there are not very many of them, but a very important 3rd overall Dragon is coming up soon, and both teams are trying to contest for it. I mean, you look down, it's pretty low damage on both sides, to be honest, and that 5th Dragon, always a strong win condition. It'll still be the same here in our last game.
Imp will have flash up for the fight. 2 no-escape AD carries means that might be a very relevant statistic. Pawn has both flash and ghost, so the mobility for the gold card. Again, I guess they're going to all in on killing Imp and hope that the other latent damage members won't be enough to win a fight.
A locket done from Clearlove is a super important purchase, though, in this particular situation. Korra, even with a Phage, building in towards his Trinity Force, it's kind of a power trough coming through for Hecarim, but Hecarim, especially with this build, does a lot with his build being very smooth. So they've got good options to EDG. I just don't know how much they want to fight for this next Dragon.
Kind of the curious thing is they all want to basically make a beeline to killing Jinx, which is fine as a strategy. They can get on top of him, onto those shadows, the Twisted Fate getting into melee range, just going for the gold card. All those are possible. The big issue is, do they also then line up to the Lissandra damage? Because Lissandra's the one person with good AoE that's relevant burst at this point, even with the locket being completed. So they need to both kill Jinx and also not group up for the damage from Godwin. If they do both those things, EDG should actually win a fight.
I mean, that's potentially a tall order as Dragon is back in 3 seconds and LGD already in position to take it away. EDG not even going to give it a look at this situation, decide they do not want to fight for it.
They want to take at least a turret. There was some preliminary pings onto Baron, which does spawn in 7 seconds, but probably not quite the game for that.
No, EDG known for doing some, I'm not going to say reckless Barons, but they do like to do them early, but that one is definitely a little too far. It's Clearlove right on top of a ward, not going to get a pick through here, unfortunately.
So will they take down this turret? It's now below half. Yep, Maokai just respects the fact that Clearlove could be in this jungle. No way for them to contest. 3 turrets to 3, but if you're going to ask me, I'd take the mid 2 turrets over the top 2 turrets any day of the
Pawn
week.
coming in, does pop the Destiny, but not really a good gank target there. Imp actually, if they want to go really nuts and tower divers, Clearlove will just back away, and that's another Destiny used just for vision.
That's honestly all that he can really do. Does have 40% CDR, so that ult cooldown, while still long, is not the most relevant statistic. He will have it up for the next fight. There's no dragon to fight for multiple minutes, so probably no real way for LGD to punish the fact that the Destiny's being used purely defensively.
Yeah, EDG, we talked about Mako coming up clutch here in this series. It's Koro once again. He's weirdly enough the big carry for his team in this particular composition, and EDG are 1,000 gold ahead, but a dragon down. The turrets equalizing does give them a slight edge here, but you can see Twisted Fate pretty far behind on gold, Def slightly ahead. Koro actually quite far ahead. He's the one that needs to go big, and once he hits that Trinity Force, EDG needs to find a good fight.
And we didn't even mention it, but it is the very standard a mid-game centric Sivir Hecarim comp where Sivir really empowers Hecarim to dive the backline with the On the Hunt, the movement speed scaling, also interacting with Hecarim's passive. Sivir Hecarim's been massively successful ever since Hecarim really started becoming this top-tier pick, and especially when the challenging Smite adaptations really made it so that he was able to both get a safe early laning phase just by exiting lane and picking up camps with the Smite, and then just transition into the anti-carry he always was, empowered by the challenging Smite onto the AD carry.
But another great rotation from LGD will give them another turret. That's their 4th here in this game, and every time EDG try and equalize, Imp is there with his minigun ready to take another turret. Phantom Dance is completed for Def, but Imp surely going back now to complete his as well. Azonya's done for Godby, means that Trinity Force couldn't come any sooner for EDG.
Honestly, though, if you told me, and you just told me these comps and said, who's happier in the late game, I'd take EDG just because of the fact that Twisted Fate is always relevant in the late game for both burst damage, pushing, and CC. Hecarim is massively strong in the late game, owes much more towards the late game than Acorn does on the Maokai, who's still very, very tanky in the late game, but only really a peel bot compared to just almost an AD just an anti-carry in Hecarim. Not quite Urgot in his anti-carry ways, but with the Trinity Force, the Home Guard boots, and the challenging Smite can do so many things to a no-escape AD carry like the Jinx. And because we're stacking health and resists on the likes of Rek'Sai, this front line from EDG should get strong once some armor items are completed for Clearlove.
LGD doing such a great job of getting exclusive vision of certain objectives. Def puts a pink ward down and clears it out, but EDG know that they're scared of LGD doing Baron again early on with their Nunu. They'll try and counter push the mid, but they actually just might go in. In fact, Acorn's looking for a flank teleport, does find it in there, dives in onto Pawn. That's not good news as an ulti comes in for Jinx. She gets excited, Def kiting back, Koro teleported in, he's trying to get something done, but Def could be the next target. Good spell shield, but it doesn't block the twisted advance. It gets another kill, flashes aggressively to get another one. Clearlove could go down, but Koro's going to ward him off, and again, the Hecarim just can't do enough work. Does zone out Imp, but Godby CCing him up, gets the kill, does Koro onto Imp, but Mako now being chased down, snowballed to death here. Cannot escape here, unfortunately, on the Thresh. It might take a while, but he should go down. Good hook, gonna delay the inevitable, but he finally falls.
Ironically, the answering kill onto Jinx does actually buy EDG enough time to respawn. The death time is still very short, so they won't lose a big objective like the Baron, despite that being just an immaculate initiation with the Flash Righteous Glory coming through from Acorn into that twisted advance onto Pawn. Pawn under farm, doesn't have a Zhonya's, was always going to die, but killing that Jinx keeps EDG in this game.
Yeah, distortion boots now for Pawn, so at least being cost efficient with his purchases here in this game. And Koro now going tanky, not quite completing that Trinity Force yet. And this is Hecarim's thing. He's a bruiser. He does need tankiness and damage. And right now sort of split the difference by a lot of them. Sure, the Cinderhawk Skirmisher Saber gives you a lot more smoothness in your early game build. But Koro, he still needs quite a bit of gold to get going.
He does. And he's been forced into magic resistant armor just because, again, the damage coming through from the 2/3, the burst damage especially from Godby, while it might fall off at 40 minutes, at 25 minutes, is still super, super relevant. And Godby's the big winner in this game in terms of lane matchups. Pawn offers a gold card and basically nothing else other than a global reveal until his Zhonya's is completed, and then it's Operation Kill Jinx between him and the Hecarim.
I mean, if they can kill the Jinx, that'd be great, but right now EDG just have to play defensively. I think in LGD's smart stuff, they're threatening constantly around the Baron. Okay, Pawn can get a pretty far distance. Actually, ultis just to check them around the Baron, but LGD, they've started it.
Yeah, I mean, they've started it. Pawn's teleport to mid. We must see a contest.
He's
surely
running in. Corrin needs to line up an ulti, but he doesn't even have it. Going in. He's riding straight into it. Clearlove steals the Baron somehow. POL ults him out, but Godby, he almost goes down. An Imp, he's already dead. Godby will go down. Def gets the next kill. And EDG, one more time, a 4-for-0 team fight and a Baron.
But they steal Baron. That's the crazy thing to come through. Level 14 was Koro. Level 13 was Clearlove. Just from having the extra levels and the 2 smites, 2 options, and of all people it was Clearlove, and it had to be Clearlove.
Koro didn't even use his ultimate. How did they do that as Clearlove? 408 now on the Rex side. Probably had something to do with it. And LGD, they're losing all the turrets. The 25 EDG Baron finally comes back to haunt them as they get it stolen away, and their base is in shambles.
Yeah, this minion wave wasn't prepped earlier, but just happened to be there, and they take all 3 turrets in a row. And what was a safe Baron, just having that vision from the Twisted Fate for the contest, and then just the most smoothest steals, drive-by by Clearlove, and EDG look like they might have one hand on the cup.
Clearlove is really earning that 20-second title.
Just watch the replay coming through here. Clearlove just casually slides in and literally steals the Baron in the same movement. LGD are low and have taken so much shred. Pawn gets into the backline, gets the stun onto Jinx, and she dies. He has the Zhonya's after that fight as well, so that's going to be a much safer maneuver. But everything LG did was tunneling in onto the Baron, and they didn't get it.
That was so clever from Pawn. A player who's this far behind may actually find himself dead as the rocket's coming in. Does use the Zhonya's. Can that buy him time? His team's actually tunneling down. Tries to ult away, but that's not going to work. But EDG might just take some structures.
They're certainly going to take the inhibitor at a minimum. LGD honestly should stay and try and pick up this dragon just because EDG don't feel confidence in trying to finish the game. But what's there to say?
They have vision. If they start the dragon, they'll lose their base. They can't do it. They actually might get some kills, but Civ is defensively ulted to get them out, and EDG will sneak away with a trade kill. And Pawn, the man who's been behind 0-6-5 as one of the world's best mid laners, and somehow he's still making plays.
And that's just the reality of Twisted Fate. He does so many things. The reveal is really strong, and Pawn's smart enough, and EDG was smart enough to not try and pass him blue bus or try and camp his lane. He was a ride-up, so just throw him. He can farm from 1300 range with the wild card. Sure, he'll be behind, but gold card is always a relevant skill in a team fight, and they've played around the fact that Pawn was completely annihilated by all of the LGD members immaculately well.
A third dragon there for LGD in and amongst all the trading there, so LGD get a nice foothold on the dragon. That's a big win condition for this team here, is that 5th dragon. But we look over, Koro getting tankier, 1200 gold now in the inventory. Clearlove getting real tanky. Pawns finished his Zhonya's. Deft has 3.5 items. That late game that EDG are looking to creep towards is coming much sooner than LGD might have expected.
I guess the interesting question is, where does Koro go with his build? Has the Phage, could build into a Sheen, but honestly the next fight, maybe him living a little bit longer. There's so many incidental damage deals. Even Clearlove does respectable damage on the likes of Rek'Sai, that maybe it's not a big rush to actually finish that Trinity Force. Will come at some point, but right now, living a bit longer, getting another spell rotation might be more important.
I mean, Imp has no lifesteal, so I don't think they're that worried, especially if Twisted Fate at this point. If Koro's CCing everyone, he'll do what he did in the Baron fight and just dive straight into the backline.
That's all they're going to do. That's what Twisted Fate's going to do. He has the Zhonya's now. He's going to register the gold cards, an automatic auto-attack cast, and then he can just go into Zhonya's and live. So has all those flexible options. They're pushing their wards up aggressively as you'd expect, and they're going to try and take this last outer turret with the Super Minions still pushing them in.
Yeah, Super Minions are there. I believe the Baron buff has dropped away. It has indeed, but EDG still plenty of pushing power here with the Sivir. Lysandra coming in. Actually, Def does take the Lantern away. The Snowball will follow all the way with him, but he'll be just fine for now.
They have a big minion wave pushing in the top that eventually will push out. Koro gets the Raptor buff, which is, of course, the cute thing that happens when you have that teleport smite and starts a clear vision around the top side. He has teleport available, isn't in position to get a home guard, but he's actually sitting on 1670 gold, and EDG just backdoor this bottom lane turret.
I like what EDG are doing. They're trying to split up LGD for as long as possible. They've already taken a mid inhib. They've got great mobility between Rek'Sai, Hecarim with teleport, and the Twisted Twisted Fate, Destiny, that with no major buffs up, why not do this?
They don't actually get to claim control over the enemy red buff as Korra just teleported back. Bought the Spirit Visage, so now he's basically a super tank. Going to probably go to the Trinity Force as his next item. But plenty of magic resist and armor confirmed. And again, Operation Kill Jinx and deal with the Gold V damage that was so important 5 minutes ago. Every minute that goes on in this game, Gold V gets slightly more irrelevant on the damage front and only really serves to set up targets for Jinx to get resets on.
With a Mikhails for Thresh and a QSS dump for Deft, he might have just entered that point in the game as well. Everyone else either has a way to get out of the ulti or is too tanky at this point, especially with the lock it up for Clearlove EDG. They found themselves a lead almost miraculously in this fifth and final game. They're up 5.5k, but what else can they do? This game is not over.
Yeah, they've already broken the base. There's no real need or impetus for them to overdive on any structures, and Hecarim's the one that's getting unanswered free farm, suddenly has a 100 CS advantage over Maokai. If we're talking about gold leads, he's got a casual 3,500 gold lead on Akon, and sure, Akon has a much lower gold ceiling to pick up his items, but Frozen Heart and a Righteous Glory, he's sort of tanked to death, but he's going to blow up incidentally in a fight.
Korra, the big carry for this particular team composition, farming up a storm here in the last game, and LGD holding on to some dragons here with the advantage, not quite holding on to the same amount of turrets as Deft. He has not left this lane in quite a while.
And it makes me smile that Twisted Fate, Pawn has understood. He's not doing any damage this game and just gets a QSS for just the casual more gold cards.
It makes sense. Again, he's almost it's a bit pejorative, but a stun bot at this case with TF. He wants to dive in, be an extra CC, just kind of add to Korra's ultimate when he goes through. And Deft and Korra at this point, they're doing plenty of damage.
And they have enough damage between the members. Not enough in any single one, but as you mentioned, Deft's got the 3 items, so he's doing as much damage as he needs to, and they're all going to dive in, as all Civicomps do. They're just going to look for that kill onto Jinx and go with the fight from there.
And a 1-3-1 being set up here by EDG, now taking away the blue buff as well. Baron is back in 30 seconds. Dragon is back in a minute 45. EDG, they have to keep control of these massive objectives because LDG, one Baron steal away from getting themselves back into the game.
LGD only have any semblance of wards towards their blue side jungle. Nothing in the area of Baron that respawns in 10 seconds. You can see Akon trying to push wards as much as possible. Of course, that's plenty of time for Twisted Fate to at least split push this outer turret in the bottom lane. And just LGD, these are the decisions that you face against a Twisted Fate comp. You're going to try and lose the minimum, but they cannot afford to give up another Baron.
I mean, Pawn got from bottom lane to mid lane and ghosted his way into the Baron to be there for in time for the last team fight. He's going to keep pushing here. The teleports, the back's already come through for Akon, who does have his teleport, but EDG have forced themselves nicely around the Baron.
Sheen now completed, so about 1,200 gold away from the Trinity Force for real anti-carry potential onto Imp, who has his own QSS, but with so many initiation options, it's probably not going to be enough against EDG's initiation.
I mean, it's just the tankiness at this point that might be the problem. It's not even just the CC. Korra, I guess, has kind of gone the long way for his damage in the build, but it pays off massively in the late game when you get there. And like you mentioned, he is quite close.
He just doesn't have any lifesteal either. That's the point you brought up, is that still picking up a QSS delays any sort of Vamp Scepter or Bloodthirster. So in the long drawn-out fights against all the consistent damage, doesn't have that option and needs to peel, get excited, and get out of a fight, then re-engage as his tank line starts to win. But the tank line from EDG is absurdly strong. Just look at Clearlove, casual 4-0-8, Randuin's Locket, and it's building up as much armor as possible.
Smart pressure from Korra there as well. They're abusing the fact that they have more mobility around this map than LGD. And look at where Clearlove is. He's on the Baron side of the map because all his tunnels are on the right-hand side.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. They've got Baron pressure. LGD have to overextend to pick it up, and eventually Pawn will renege from his repeated pushing in the bottom lane. They can go for a teleport and Destiny engage and just try and catch Imp whenever he's slightly overextended.
They can solo Dragon now as well. EDG have played this so well. I was wondering, why are you so insistent on pushing this bottom lane turret? But they know that this way, with a three guys in the top and 2 splitting in the bottom, it's the perfect way to get complete control of the river.
So obviously Dragon, the smallest of advantages, particularly the second Dragon, but you're still building up that stack. At this point, the 5th Dragon, if you're on point and on par from EDG, is still a good 18 minutes, so 50-plus minutes into this game. It probably will be decided by then, but you always have to set up every advantage to serve up the next one.
I think mostly just deny it away from LGD, stop them potentially snowballing. Now, again, they're in a position where they could have gotten a 4th Dragon, and EDG will be pressured to finish the game before it really mattered here. And again, just look at where LGD are standing.
Again, the runaround.
Yeah, they're in complete darkness, getting absolutely run around, finally make a bit of headway, but Korra's sticking in the bottom lane, just annoying Akon. Probably can kill him at this point, if we're going to be real. 2,000 gold bank for Deft, almost 1,000 for Koro. And LGD, this is dangerous. They're on top of the Baron.
Yeah, they've been forced into this position. This is the only way they can be assertive rather than being dictated to by the 2 globals. In fact, the 3 globals coming through from EDG with Rek'Sai as well. EDG just have the run of the map. It was looking real hairy when Twisted Fate was basically a non-factor. But as he starts to stack on items, Sheen, not the biggest item, but still another relevant statistic that will register with the gold card. There's just no good movements for LG, barring this hopeful Baron.
This is very brave here from LGD. They're on top of the Baron. There's the teleport coming through. Ultimate already in for Twisted Fate. He's so close, and Akon forced the port late. Clearlove going back in. Akon around the side, but Death finally makes it in. Godby getting tanked up as well. Clearlove actually dies as Pawn goes back in, and Mako's not here, and Death now peeled away, but Koro does so much work in the back line, but it might not be enough here. Pawn needs to find a kill to win, but he QSS's out. Imp gets the kill. That's 2 kills. Death goes back in, flashes aggressive. Pawn needs to tie it away. Deft, what the hell? Gets a triple kill, gets the quadra, gets the penta kill. What on earth is going on?
Penta kill from the Korean duo Deft and Pawn wins them this game. They still have a minion wave. Koro's still alive, and that should be it.
What happened in this game? EDG, you talk about clutch, but this is ridiculous, and the death time is a low. EDG, they will try and end this game.
Yes, a Twisted Fate has the Sheen, not quite the Lich Bane. 15 seconds on any relevant wave clear. It's going to be, at minimum, a bare Nexus. And with 3 globals, that's going to be a big deal for LGD to defend.
1 turret down. EDG are training down these turrets. Can they take out the game? PYL's back. TBQ's back as well. Imp is going in, but EDG, they're committing. They want to go for the Nexus. They take it out. The once and future Kings ascend again to the throne. EDG, your 2015 LPL Spring winners.
Just a miraculous victory there, Pastry Time, as you lose your voice at the most active times. Pentakill to win the game for Deft. He was up there equal with Crystal on the MVP ratings, but we all know who the MVP will be, and LGD are devastated.
You can see Deft now finally smiling. Pawn, expression never changes. The brothers not quite embraced. Deft just kind of gives him a counter up saying, hey, big brother, beat you this time.
I mean, the loving hugs are maybe for the after party, as that was a real crushing defeat. LGD, after having the Baron stolen away, were looking to win that fight, but Deft, he stayed alive. And specifically, Twisted Fate kept getting those spell rotations with the minimum of gold, was still so impactful in a team fight. And even though they kept down Pawn as much as he could, all that CC in the kit of Twisted Fate was the big difference in that fight.
EDG, be very proud. Put your hands on the cup and lift it high. Clearlove worked so hard for his 22nd championship, but he's done it.
And he's the most successful LAN player of all time, League of Legends championship winner of all time, a deserved winner and raising of this cup as the captain of EDG.
And Deft denies the triple crown away from him. EDG hold their heads and their cup high in what was an absolutely absurd best of 5. I don't know what the next split's going to look like, because this one ended in absolute insanity.
And it's a 5-game series that had everything. It had the smart strategic moves by LGD. It had the craziness of just this game in particular and the melee range Corki play. But EDG, they looked like the playoffs wouldn't be theirs. 2 games, 2 series going to the best of 5. At times looking like they wouldn't be able to take it down, but they did it right at the last.
Deft picks up the title in China. EDG keep the title in their organization, but only just. LGD made them work for another title, but at least for the first one here in China, EDG continued their domestic dominance, albeit with a few new Korean faces.
And that's the thing. Pawn finally gets his next domestic championships. Of course, he already won with Samsung Glue, hit another final. That's 3 finals in a row between the 2 Champions finals and now the LPL finals. His domestic run is already super impressive, and Deft as well.
Clearlove, so happy to win again. You know, you wondered, he's been around for so long, 4 or 5 years at this point. Is Clearlove going to retire? I feel like he's come back in 2015 and really just proved that he is still one of the best players in the world.
It's just not the same Clearlove, Pesham. I was there with all the detractors of Clearlove, often would role play as Evelyn and not even be playing Evelyn, just be invisible, take a few jungle camps, not really get any games.